I'm trying to figure this out, Winnie.
Think I hope when I pray? What if I put it on that seems like a terrible idea.
I'm gonna hold it in my hand. How about that? After I finish this video, I'm going on the internet and buying new wigs for my microphone because his little toupee is been mangled by cheese. Where are you? God, who knows where she is? Hi, kids. Welcome back to another pizza party. I'm Mrs. Pizza. That is Weenie. Hello, Weenie. Oh, and there's Cheese. She's been acknowledged and she's like, you available for some pets? Because I'm available for some pets. Sidebar, if it looks like Cheese is wearing a Band-Aid on her ear, she is. It is legit a Band-Aid. She actually did a tiny little cut on the edge of her ear and then was doing the floppy blood, just blood. My house was a crime scene. And I said officially that if I ever go missing, I could Gone Girl the hell out of Mr. Pizza. There is blood splatter all over this house. For the teeny tiniest little cut, she got blood everywhere. We're still finding it. We mopped the floor and still am finding corners of the house that have teeny little blood specks on them. We called the vet, we talked to her, we tried everything that she suggested, and literally the only thing we can keep from her just flinging her ear everywhere is a Band-Aid. Just a really big Band-Aid. So who would have thunk? We are here to talk about some upcoming releases. Well, probably by the time you see this, there will be some current releases that have just happened and some upcoming releases. The month of February is going to be phenomenal for book releases. I don't know if you know this. There's a lot of good books coming out in February. And I went deep with the fantasy books. I think there might be two. A little horror, but it's leaning more towards fantasy horror. There's one official horror, not horror. Oof, not horror. I crack myself up. There is one official horror. Jesus Christmas. If I could talk, that would be great. There is one official horror release on this list, but most of this is fantasy. Most of this is stuff that I'm really excited about. February is going to be a very good month, guys. February is going to be a very good month. So let's get into it. The first book we are going to talk about comes out on February 6th, and that is 50 Beasts to Break Your Heart and Other Stories. This is by GennaRose Nethercott, which is the same author that wrote Thistlefoot, which I think came out... When did Thistlefoot come out? That doesn't matter really, but now I need to know. Thistlefoot came out in 2022. This book is a collection of dark fantasy stories. It says a collection of dark fairy tales and fractured folklore exploring all the ways love can save us or go monstrously wrong. The stories in 50 Beasts to Break Your Heart are about the abomination that resides within us all, that churning, clawing, hungry with desire to be loved, and the terror of those things to be... that churning, clawing, hungry, the desire to be loved and seen and known, and the terror of those things to be loved too well or not enough or not for too... I feel like there's a word missing. Basically, it's a bunch of dark fairy tales about love and how it can be horribly right or horribly wrong. The cover is pretty stinking cool, and I love a dark fairy tale, so I'm very excited about that one. The next book on this list comes out on February 6th as well, and that is going to be Bride by Hazelwood, which everybody who's ever read romance and exists on the social media realm knows who Hazelwood is. This is her first foray. Oh, buddy. You know, some days I can't speak English and it's the only language I know. Bride is Hazelwood's first time writing a paranormal romance that will be traditionally published. And all you really need to know about this is it's Hazelwood, and it's going to be a vampire and a werewolf and an arranged marriage. And I bet he'll be huge and she'll be small. That's what she does. I'm interested to see because this author has written a lot of romance novels dealing with STEM and women in STEM. And so this is kind of a departure from things that have been traditionally published. I don't know if Hazelwood actually did any independently published or fanfic stuff. I know she's a Raylo. She's a Raylo girly. So this will probably be Raylo coded, but everything is Raylo coded. You're probably Raylo coded. I'm probably Raylo coded. Everything is Raylo coded. I mean, I'll read it, you know? The next book after that is going to be coming out on February 13th, and that is The Warm Hands of Ghosts. And this is by Katherine Arden. And Katherine Arden wrote the Bear and the Nightingale trilogy. This is a Russian folklore-inspired fantasy. It is beautiful. I'm actually on the second book right now. And The Warm Hands of Ghosts It says takes place during the Great War. This is a historical fantasy novel with it says it's a historical novel with a speculative, holy This is a historical novel with a speculative twist instead of a straight up fantasy novel where we have our main character, Laura, who has been a revered field nurse until she is wounded and discharged and sent home, leaving behind a brother still fighting in Belgium. When she travels back home, she receives word that her brother, Freddie, has died, and she thinks something is fishy. So she ends up volunteering and heading back to Belgium, where she starts hearing stories of haunted trenches and ghosts and such. And she also hearing of a mysterious character who has some sort of wine that a lot of the soldiers are drinking that helps them forget the horrors of war. We also, in this novel, it seems, have the point of view of her brother Freddie, who finds himself, after an explosion, he wakes up trapped in an overturned pillbox with a wounded enemy soldier, a German by the name of Hans. And these two, unable to bear the thought of returning to the killing fields, especially on opposite sides, take up refuge with a mysterious man who seems to have the power to make the hellscape of the trenches disappear. Katherine Arden is really good at atmosphere, at really lyrical writing. She's a phenomenal author, and I'm really interested to see kind of a different time period through her eyes. Next up, also coming out on February 13th, is The Projections, and this is by S.E. Porter. This is the story of a young woman who is on a mission of revenge against a sorcerer who murdered her after she refused his advances. And now she is trying to get revenge on the sorcerer as he keeps sending out, it says, projections of himself, trying to seduce women who, if they don't accept his advances, might suffer mortal consequences. I love that she's gonna go after the man who sounds awful. He sounds awful. And the cover of this is very sinister. This is supposed to be very gothic and dark. This author has written YA fantasy in the past, but this is their first adult fantasy novel being published. Honestly, I thought I could speak words today, but it's not happening, you know. Next up, also coming out on February 13th, is going to be What Feasts at Night, and this is by t.kingfisher. This is the follow-up to What Moves the Dead. This is a tiny little horror novel, which is this author's reimagining of The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. This is a lot of fun. We are following a soldier. Our soldier's name is Alex, and they are summoned to the House of Usher when a letter arrives saying that their beloved friend Madeline is on death's door and doesn't have long to live. And when Alex gets to the crumbling estate, there's something not right. There's ooky spooky things happening. The vibes are wrong. The vibes are just all wrong. Everything is damp and moldy and gross, and something is happening to everyone that all of the ushers. Something's happening to the ushers. This story actually has, if you just wanted to read this alone, it has a decent conclusion. Like, I wasn't left wanting more, but I am interested to see what happens to Alex in our upcoming story. Also, I'm a fan of t.kingfisher horror novels, so that'll be fun for me. Up next on February 15th, we have An Education in Malice, and this is by S.T. Gibson, who you might know for A Dowry of Blood. This is the original cover when it was independently published. The new traditionally published covers of this are absolutely gorgeous as well, but this is a reimagining of the story of Dracula, where the point of view we are getting is one of Dracula's brides. This is absolutely gorgeous and gruesome and sad and about being stuck in a toxic relationship with Dracula. This was a really fun ride if you're into dark gothic vampire stories. And An Education in Malice is this author's dark academia reimagining of the story of Carmilla. This is also a vampire tale, so I don't know if vampires are actually going to be involved in this or if it's going to be a complete reimagining. But An Education in Malice is the story of this young woman who goes to a very secluded college with lots of secret, oogie spooky things happening, a la dark academia, when she is mesmerized by the charismatic figure of Carmilla. I love some dark academia. I love a reimagining. I liked this author's other novel that I read, so I'm pretty excited. Next up on February 20th, we have A Tempest of Tea, and this is the first book in a new series by Hafsah Faizal. This is the same author that wrote We Hunt the Flame, I think was the name of that duology. I know that's the name of one of the books, but is that the name of the duology? Also, the cover of this, freaking stunning. Yes, we hunt the flame and we free the stars. This is the story of a young woman who, her name is Arthi, and she is a criminal mastermind and collector of secrets. She has a prestigious tea room, which transforms into an illegal bloodhouse by dark, catering to the vampires feared by society. When her establishment is threatened, Arthi is forced to strike an unlikely deal with an alluring adversary to save it. She can't do the job alone, calling on the city's most skilled outcasts. So it sounds like we're going to have vampires, some sort of group found family heist element going on in this dark, action-packed, and swoon-worthy novel. This is going to be a duology, and it says it's going to be teeming with romance, revenge, and an orphan girl doing whatever it takes to save her self-made kingdom. I mean, it sounds so much fun. Next up on February 27th, we have The Dark Still Stands, and this is by A.B. Poranek. This is I believe, don't hold me to it, but I think this is going to end up being a fantasy romance. This is a Polish folklore-inspired story where we have a young woman named Liska who knows that magic is monstrous and its practitioners monsters. But after Liska unleashes her own powers with devastating consequences, she is caught by the demon warden of the wood, who offers her a bargain, 1 year of servitude in exchange for a wish. If she wants to survive the year and return home, she must unravel her host's spool of secrets and face the ghosts of his past. Those who enter the woods do not always return. I mean, yeah, right? Yeah. Next up, we have The Butcher of the Forest, and this is by Premee Mohamed. This is the story of a world-weary woman who races against the clock to rescue the children of a wrathful tyrant from a dangerous and otherworldly forest. We have our main character who lives just outside of this forest and who is the only person who has ever ventured in and then returned again alive. When this tyrant who rules the land, when their 2 children go missing, our main character is then forced to enter the woods and has to make it out with these children in 24 hours. If she makes it out without the children, the tyrant will most likely kill her, and if she stays in the forest too long, she'll most likely die. It sounds like it is full of riddles and monsters, and one misstep will cost her everything. I mean, that sounds super fun. Sounds very dark fairy tale to me. I love a haunted, like, scary, spooky fairy tale woods, you know? Next up on February 27th, we have A Fate Inked in Blood, and this is by Danielle L. Jensen, who wrote, along with other things, The Bridge Kingdom, which is a fantasy romance duology. Well, I think it's a series, but it's like a series of duologies, which if you like enemies to lovers, this is legit enemies to lovers. None of that not really enemies to lovers nonsense that keeps happening all over the place. A Fate Inked in Blood is the first book in the saga of the Unfated, and this is a Norse-inspired story of a woman who is a shield maiden blessed by the gods to unite a nation under a power-hungry king. It sounds like our main character, Freya, is married to someone who she doesn't like. He doesn't sound too great, and Freya dreams of becoming a warrior. As she's going throughout her days, she thinks about being a true warrior, and then she is thrust into a situation that causes her to accidentally expose that she has a drop of the goddess's blood inside of her and catapults her down this course where she is now under the protection of the king's son, and there might be some romantic chemistry there. Also, I'm pretty sure he's going to train her to be a warrior. So we have a little bit of a warrior training, which sounds super fun. And last but not least, on February 29th, we have the book that I am anticipating with every ounce of my being, and that is going to be Empire of the Damned by J. Kristoff. It is the sequel to Empire of the Vampire. This is the story of Gabriel, and he is a Silver Saint, and he is the last remaining Silver Saint, the last of his order of these vampire slayers in this world full of vampires. This story opens with Gabriel in a tower, having been caught by the vampires, and he is then interviewed by one of the vampires about his life. They want to know about the Silver Saints. They want to know about how he became this epic hero and this boogeyman to vampire kind, and he gives his story. And it's phenomenal, and I loved it, and it's brutal, and it's dark, and just full of blood and vampires. I want to know where our characters end up after we leave them in the end of this book. I'll get what I want on February 29th. That, kids, is some fantasy, is some books. That's some books that are coming out in February. I hope that I have hurt your TBR just a little bit, because I am so excited about all these books, and I'm never going to read them all, but I need somebody to read them. Somebody out there. I hope I helped you find a book that you're excited about. I hope you had fun hanging out with me and the dogs, even though they really didn't hang out with me. I think it's because it's close to dinner time for them. So right now they're just circling their food bowls like sharks, just hoping food appears. If you had fun hanging out with me and the dogs, please subscribe. I hope you're reading good books out there, wherever you are, and I'll see you next time.